So, we've had many games come out that have had relatively poor performance, and a lot of those games just so happen to be Unreal Engine 5 games. Well, the CEO of Epic, who actually creates Unreal Engine 5, basically came out and said it's the developers that are the problem here in this situation. Unreal 5 performance issues are mainly due to devs not optimizing properly, Epic CEO Tim Sweeney says. Not enough studios optimized for less powerful hardware early in development process, he claims. So, basically, that's kind of what the current conversation is regarding this, and I think it's actually quite interesting because ultimately, at the end of the day, it's not the engine's job to optimize the game. The engine exists as the basis for the game's overall creation process. However, optimization is something that needs to happen throughout the process and not just be left at the end so that people can push out a nearly empty, not functional at all game and then have people just kind of figure things out thereafter. Which I think is certainly I think that if people were able to use Unreal Engine 5 properly, I don't think we would get a lot of early access releases that much, if I'm being honest. So, the CEO of Epic Games has suggested that some platforms struggle to run Unreal Engine 5 games because their developers aren't optimizing them properly. It's suggested in recent years that Unreal Engine 5 demanding technical requirements can sometimes mean that running UE5 games on less powerful hardware can result in poor performance and sluggish gameplay. Now, immediately when I think of devices that might not be able to run UE5 games, that's going to be weaker PCs, as well as probably the Xbox Series S. I don't know if the Series S can actually run UE5 games. That's not really something that people have ever really directly spoken about. But I doubt, anyone who releases a game on Xbox is going to talk smack about the weakest SKU of a current gen device. Epic Games founder and CEO Tim Sweeney, who created Unreal Engine in the first place, says that the reason for this isn't necessarily the fault of the engine itself, but the way developers are using it. In a media roundtable interview during the latest Unreal Fest event in Seoul, South Korea, Sweeney was asked if Epic Games was going to do anything to address claims of optimization issues with Unreal Engine 5 games. Now, that being said, everything that I've said in this article is about how Tim Sweeney is saying it's the developers that are the problem. Even though he does say that, he is actually going to now mention stuff that he is going to be trying to do to help make things easier. Stuff like educating the developers and just making some auto optimization tools and things like that. So basically, this is what it looks like. So what he says is the primary reason why Unreal Engine 5 games don't run smoothly on certain PCs or GPUs is the development process, Sweeney explained via machine translation. Many developers develop games for high-end hardware that perform optimization and testing on lower spec devices in the final stages of development. Of course, optimization is by no means an easy task. It's very challenging. Ideally, optimization should be implemented early in development before full-scale content builds can begin. And he says, we're preparing two major solutions to address the issue. One is to strengthen UE's support. Optimization requires significant manual effort, so we provide automated optimization for various devices, making the process faster and easier for developers. And those automated optimizations most likely are going to be for consoles and relatively mid-range PCs. That being said, the other is to strengthen developer training. In addition to providing education on the overall testing and optimization process, it's crucial to raise awareness of the importance of early optimization. If necessary, our engineers can provide direct intervention to raise awareness of optimization techniques and provide technical assistance. However, compared to a decade ago, the complexity of games themselves have increased significantly, making optimization at an engine level a challenge. So basically that's kind of where I'm going to end it there, because basically there isn't really much more to mention. It just largely talks about how Fortnite is basically the testing dummy for Unreal Engine for the longest time. I think ever since the game actually came out, since they're both really under Epic. But it's funny to see that the engine creators themselves, or rather Tim Sweeney in this case, is coming out and saying, hey, you know what? It's the game devs. The game devs don't properly optimize, and for that reason, they kind of look like they make the games that they work on look like mud to some extent, and that they need to kind of educate themselves. They need to properly learn. They need to figure their shit out, because at the end of the day, if those developers don't learn from the lessons of, you know, poorly optimized releases, then ultimately it's only going to have more poorly optimized releases further on down the line. And ideally, we don't want that in a good space when it comes to gaming. That we don't want a bunch of, you know, hobbled up garbage for games to release, you know, poorly performing and things like that. And I think poor performance is something that we usually attribute to, you know, the type of PC that you have and things like that. Sometimes in the console space, there are games that do run poorly because they were poorly developed in the first place, and it doesn't really have that much to do with optimization, because optimization can only be done so much or for so far. But if there's just really poorly done spaghetti code, then you're kind of, you know, screwed regardless. But with all of that being said, though, I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say about this. Developers being called out specifically is, I think, the bit that kind of is, I think, the most interesting of all. That being said, though, let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel. I'm aiming for 500 subs by the end of the year. And with all that being said, I do upload every day, so I'll see you guys tomorrow.